Hello everybody and welcome back to One Nerd to Rule Them All. And in today's video, we'll be jumping back into our Horus Heresy series as we look at the Shadow Crusade, of how Lorgar and Angron lit the galaxy on fire before the heresy broke. So, without further ado, let's get into the video. Before the galaxy could erupt into full-scale civil war, before brother turned against brother on Istavan, and before Terra itself was threatened, there was a war waged in the shadows. A campaign of blood, fire, and heresy, led by two of the most dangerous Primarchs the Emperor ever created, Lorgar and Angron. The origins of the Shadow Crusade began decades before the heresy. The Word-Bearers, led by Lorgar, were devoted not only to conquest but to worship. They raised towering cathedrals and conquered worlds, preaching the divinity of the Emperor himself. But the Emperor demanded secular unity, not godhood. And when Lorgar refused to stop, the punishment was swift and absolute. Rebute Guilliman and the Ultramarines burned Monarchia, the greatest of the Word-Bearer cities, to the ground. Lorgar and his sons were forced to kneel and watch as their faith and pride were annihilated. This humiliation broke Lorgar's loyalty, and in the ashes of Monarchia, he turned to the gods of the war, Chaos. Over years, Lorgar and his trusted lieutenants, Erebus and Corpharon, spread the dark faith throughout the Word-Bearers and secretly across the Legiones Astartes. But Lorgar wasn't content with his legion's quiet corruption. He wanted a grander plan, to cripple the Emperor's greatest fortress in the galactic east, the 500 worlds of Ultramar, ruled by Guilliman himself. To do this, Lorgar allied with another Primarch, Angron, the Red Angel of the World Eaters. Angron, already a living engine of rage and destruction, cared nothing for gods or faith, only slaughter. Lorgar would provide the strategy, Angron would provide the fury. And so began the Shadow Crusade, a lightning war of terror and devastation. Together, the Word-Bearers and the World Eaters attacked over 100 worlds of Ultramar, burning cities to ash, summoning daemons in blood-soaked rituals, and turning entire planets into hellish war zones. These weren't just random raids. Lorgar aimed to draw Guilliman and the Ultramarines into a desperate defensive war, scattering them and weakening their abilities to respond to Horus's coming rebellion. The Shadow Crusades reached its bloody climax at the Battle of Caith. The Word-Bearers and the Ultramarines had been fighting alongside each other in the Great Crusade, until, in a shocking act of betrayal, the Word-Bearers turned their guns on their brothers. The battle raged in space and across Caith's surface, where Word-Bearers unleashed warp storms and summoned demonic hordes. The damage was catastrophic, millions dead, entire cities were annihilated, and Caith itself was left in eternal darkness under a permanent warp storm. So why was the Shadow Crusade so important? First, it crippled the Ultramarines, the largest and most loyal legion, keeping them occupied whilst Horus prepared to strike at Istavan and beyond. Second, it unleashed the full horror of chaos on a scale the Imperium had never seen, opening the door for demonic invasions that would plague the galaxy for millennia. It also showed the very different motives of the traitors. Lorgar, driven by religious fanaticism and the desire to make the galaxy in the god's image, and Angron, driven by hate and bloodlust. Together, they embodied the madness and the tragedy of the Horus Heresy. The Shadow Crusade was more than just a campaign. It was a declaration that the age of reason and unity was over. In its place came fire, darkness, and the long night of heresy. And it all began, not with a single betrayal, but with pride, faith, twisted to hate, and a brotherhood consumed by revenge. That brings us to the end of today's video. If you're enjoying this series, then of course, please look at the playlist below to kind of catch up on everything I've done so far. Anyway, that'll be it from me today. Have a wonderful day or night, wherever you are in the world. And as always, bye for now, guys.